Hey everyone, welcome to the online course about Scrum, one of the most popular Agile methodologies for running projects in the world. This course is made for people to get familiar with the framework and learn about its key elements. All terms and basics are explained in a human language so everyone can understand and relate it to the specifics of the industry they work in. That's why this course is called Scrum in General. Here's the high-level overview of the content of this course. First, I'll give you a quick and short introduction about myself and the topic. Then we're going to talk about what Scrum really is. After that, we'll get into a little more detail to discuss the 5 key elements of Scrum. And in the end, there will be a short closing note from me. I hope that makes sense, so see you in the first lecture of Scrum in General. Hi there, Agile people! Let me give you a little bit of introduction, and I will start with a talking guy. My name is Ilya Fakeyev, and I have quite a bit of experience with Agile methodologies. I worked for over 5 years in IT industry applying those methodologies in real-life projects. Also, I had the chance to work in 3 different countries, Canada, Belarus, and Czech Republic, and had the pleasure to collaborate with clients from over 10 different countries. Another important thing you need to know about me is I'm a professional Scrum Master certified by Scrum.org. So who is this course really for? I would say literally everyone. If your work is project-based, you can apply it. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you can do it. And what's more exciting, that you can apply it in any aspect of your life. I mean, like your personal life. But we will talk about this later in the course. So why Scrum is so popular? First thing we need to clarify right away is that Scrum is Agile, but Agile is not always Scrum. A lot of people often use these 2 terms interchangeably, but it's not always correct, because a bunch of other Agile methodologies exist out there, like Kanban, Lean, Extreme Programming, and etc. Scrum is based on iterations, so it's very easy to see the progress. It gives you quick, visible, and tangible results. And it's very easy to understand. There is a study done saying that Scrum increases productivity of teams on average by 300 to 400%. Can you imagine that? What is Scrum? Can you tell? Any guesses? Alright. Scrum is an Agile methodology or a framework which provides you with a set of rules and recommendations. Being Agile generally means being flexible, adaptive, and being able to react to changes very fast. Scrum is quite aligned with this definition of Agile because its philosophy is based on empirical process control theory, or empiricism. Empiricism asserts that knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is already known. Scrum employs an iterative, incremental approach to optimize predictability and control risk. Basically, Scrum says, learn as you go and continuously improve. Officially, Scrum is a framework within which people can address complex adaptive problems while productively and creatively delivering products of the highest possible value. This is the book definition of Scrum, provided by Scrum Guide. Scrum Guide is something like a Bible of Scrum. It says Scrum is a framework, and it's very important to understand this. Scrum is not a step-by-step solution on how to run your projects. It's not a magic pill that will solve all your problems. Scrum is more of a set of recommendations on how to do things in order to get better and faster results. Also, Scrum Guide insists that all elements of Scrum must be implemented together and none of them must be ignored. On the other hand, it also allows to enhance the framework with custom processes. To make it more clear to you about the framework stuff, I came up with this comparison to European football, aka soccer. So Scrum is like a European football. It's lightweight, simple to understand, and it's difficult to master. So basically, you can play football anywhere you want as long as you have this minimum set of key elements like field, goals, ball, and players. The more you practice, the more you master the game and its environment. So you become better at playing and you keep adding more and more elements like referee, fans, stadium, nice grass field. The same with Scrum, you keep building and growing around this framework. Uses of Scrum. This is quote from Scrum Guide. Since early 90s, Scrum has been extensively used to develop software, hardware, embedded software, networks of interacting function, autonomous vehicles, schools, government, marketing, managing the operation of organizations, and almost everything we use in our daily lives as individuals and societies. Now, remember early in the course, I mentioned that we will talk more about the examples of how you can apply Scrum in your personal life. So here you go. You can apply Scrum when planning your wedding. There is even a business called Scrum Your Wedding. If you think about it, what is a wedding? It can be treated as a project. This venture has a start, it has some phases in the middle, and then it ends, just like a project. So why not to choose a professional approach and apply Agile methodologies? How cool is that? Another interesting application of Scrum could be sports. This is from my personal experience. Scrum is based on iterations, right? So you can plan your workout calendar in iterations. For example, you can set 3-week iterations. You plan your workouts for 3 weeks, you set some small goals, you achieve them, and then you plan the next iteration based on the result of previous one. Plus, you also apply lessons learned from the previous iteration, and so on. This way, it is very easy to track the progress, and you know that you always move forward. Up to now, we had a very high-level discussion about Scrum, and now let's take a look under the hood and see what's there. So these are major 5 elements of Scrum. Pillars of Scrum, Scrum values, Scrum team, Scrum events, and Scrum artifacts. These are key and must-have elements of Scrum. So if you go back to European football comparison, for example, it would be players, field, goals, and the ball. Don't try to match each element in this comparison. It's there just to give you a general idea what is meant by framework. Pillars of Scrum. There are 3 pillars of Scrum: transparency, inspection, adaptation. And now we're gonna talk about each of them in more detail. Transparency. It means all team members speak common language, share common standards, and clearly understand the definition of done. Also, all teammates know what everyone is doing, how, why, and what are the next steps. Transparency also implies a high level of predictability within the team. Every team member should be able to read a given situation in the same way. Inspection. Team members should regularly inspect vital indicators of the project, for example, Scrum artifacts, and see if there are any significant deviations. Their inspection should not be so frequent that inspection gets in the way of the work. Adaptation. If an inspector determines that one or more of vital indicators deviate outside the acceptable limits, and that might cause unacceptable project results, an adjustment must be made as soon as possible to minimize further deviation. Scrum values. Here are 5 Scrum values: commitment, courage, focus, openness, respect. Commitment means dedication. Courage. Do not be afraid to tell your teammates that you made a mistake or did something wrong. You are the team. You will work it out together. Focus. Eyes on the prize. Don't waste your time and don't do things which do not make you better or do not get you closer to the project goals. Openness. Share your ideas. Be open for feedback and improvement. Don't hide. Respect. Treat your teammates the same way you want to be treated. These are values that Scrum propagates in its framework. I personally think that every team and every project should be run by these values regardless the methodology is used. These values are very crucial in building a healthy team and friendly environment. It is the hardest part of the leader's job to make sure a team's mind is set by these values. If every team member acts accordingly, the chances of a project or a venture to be a success significantly increase. Scrum team. Scrum team consists of product owner, development team, Scrum master. Scrum master is a Scrum evangelist and coach. This person is a servant leader for the Scrum team. Product owner is the official term. In other words, this person is the owner of the result produced by the team. Development team. It is called development team because originally Scrum was born in software development industry, but in fact, it's an execution team. Pay attention that Scrum team and the development team are two different terms. And if you take a Scrum Master exam, there will be tricky questions to see if you know the difference. Product owner or result owner. The product owner is responsible for maximizing the value of the product resulting from work of the development team. The product owner is one person, not a committee. The product owner may represent the desires of a committee in the product backlog, but those wanting to change a product backlog item's priority must address the product owner. This is definition by Scrum Guide. In real life, very often a product owner is represented by a team of people, although Scrum Guide suggests otherwise. People like product manager and analyst, for example. Product owner is the person who is responsible for the result. Therefore, he or she is the result owner. For instance, if the board of directors of a company decides that they need a new CRM system and they appoint a person responsible for developing this product, that is the product owner. Product owner is responsible for conceptual vision of the product and defining its important features. Development team or execution team. Development team is cross-functional, meaning they have all the skills to finish the job without external help. Development team is self-organizing. No one, not even the Scrum Master, tells them how to turn requirements or tasks into a result. Also, Scrum recognizes no titles and sub-teams within the execution team. It does not matter what kind of work a person does. So, no project managers, no sub-team of designers, no programmers, and etc. Optimal size is from 3 to 9 people. Amount less than 3 may encounter skill constraints or result in significant movement forward in terms of execution. Amount more than 9 may require too much coordination and too much complexity for an empirical process to be useful. Result owner and Scrum Master are not included in this count unless they are also executing the work. Scrum Master. When I try to describe what Scrum Master should do for the team, I use words like facilitate, improve and enhance, encourage, and drive. The most popular description of this role is servant leader. A true servant leader is there to help teams to do their best work. This leader is trusted, meaning can act as a point of contact for cross-team communication. They are organized, skilled at blocking and tackling, running things to the ground, and protecting the teams, while making sure that they are responsive to the needs of the business. Scrum Master is agilist. Scrum Master is responsible for promoting and supporting Scrum as defined in Scrum Guide. Scrum Masters do this by helping everyone understand Scrum theory, practices, rules, and values. They coach development team in self-organization and cross-functionality. They are skilled at balancing best practices, experiments, and flexibility to suit the situation. Scrum Master is also a value maximizer, meaning that Scrum Master constantly takes initiative to identify and resolve issues that can improve overall efficiency and effectiveness of the development team. Scrum Master ensures the product owner knows how to arrange the product backlog to maximize the value. Scrum Master helps the development team to create high-value products and results. You probably already have quite a natural question in mind. What is the difference between Scrum Master and the Project Manager? Isn't Scrum Master just another fancy name for a Project Manager? The answer is no. Scrum Masters are not the same as Project Managers. In fact, they're quite fundamentally different. The fundamental difference between a Project Manager and a Scrum Master is that Project Manager's focus is on the project, whereas the Scrum Master's focus is on the team and its members. The Project Manager's job is to ensure that the project is successful, while the Scrum Master's job is to ensure that the team is successful. Scrum events. The set of prescribed meetings in Scrum and their regularity are designed the way so they minimize the need for other meetings, although Scrum does not prohibit to add extra meetings if needed. However, failure to include any of these events result in reduced transparency, and it is a lost opportunity to inspect and adapt. All events in Scrum are time-boxed, such that every event has a maximum duration. Each event in Scrum is a formal opportunity to inspect and adapt something. These events are specifically designed to enable critical transparency and inspection. Sprint. Sprint means iteration. So one sprint, one iteration. We can say that the whole Scrum methodology is built around the term sprint. Working by sprints in Scrum is like shuttle running. With one difference, you don't run back and forth, but you always run forward. You might be changing direction a little bit, but the main vector is always forward. So you do iterations one by one. You did one, you stopped for a while, looked back, tried to think how you can run the next sprint better, and you do it again. With each sprint, you deliver something valuable for the product, project, or business. Scrum says that the sprint has to be no longer than 1 month. Usually it's 2-3 weeks, at least in the software development industry. By Scrum, the length of the sprint cannot be changed if it has already started, and the sprint itself can be cancelled only by product owner, only in case if they consider that what you planned for the sprint is not relevant anymore. Sprint planning. Basically, this is when the whole Scrum team sits in one room, physical or virtual, and plan the next run. Sprint planning is time-boxed to a maximum of 8 hours for 1 month sprint. If the sprint is shorter, it will obviously take less time for planning. Over time, planning should happen quicker because the team finds its comfortable pace and they understand each other much better. Scrum Master ensures that the event takes place and the attendants understand its purpose. Product Owner states the sprint goal according to priorities. Also, Product Owner attends sprint planning to clarify the requirements if needed and answer team's questions. Only the development team can assess what they can accomplish over the upcoming sprint. The development team may also invite other people to attend to provide technical or domain advice. By the end of the sprint planning, the development team should be able to explain to Product Owner and Scrum Master how they intend to work as a self-organizing team to accomplish the sprint goal. Daily Scrum. Daily Scrum meeting, also known as Daily Stand-Up meeting. The daily Scrum is a 15-minute time box event for the development team. The daily Scrum is held every day of the sprint. During this meeting, development team plans work for the next 24 hours. The structure of the meeting is set by dev team and can be conducted in different ways as long as it focuses on the progress toward the sprint goal. Some development teams will use questions, some will be more discussion based. So here is an example of questions that can be answered by team members during the daily Scrum. What did I do yesterday that helped the development team meet the sprint goal? What will I do today to help the development team meet the sprint goal? Do I see any impediment that prevents me or the development team from meeting the sprint goal? Sprint review. This event is limited to 4 hours given that the sprint is 1 month. During this session, the Scrum team invites all the stakeholders of the project and demonstrates everything that was done during the sprint. This is the time when all the parties can provide feedback about the work of the Scrum team. Also, the entire group can collaborate on what to do next. So the result of the sprint review is a revised product backlog that defines the probable product backlog items for the next sprint. The product backlog may also be adjusted overall to meet new opportunities, which can also be discussed during the sprint review. Sprint retrospective. This event should take not more than 3 hours in 1 month sprint. Sprint retro occurs after the sprint review and prior to the next sprint planning. It is basically a look back on the sprint the team just finished. In this meeting, the Scrum team is by itself and all team members share their feedback to each other. The Scrum Master ensures that the meeting is positive and productive. Everyone there is not to criticize each other, but to improve and contribute ideas on how to make the team more successful. To get the discussion going, the team can answer the following questions. What went well? What issues did we face? And what can we improve in the next sprint or in the long run? Usually I talk about the good things at the end, so the meeting can be finished on a positive note. Anyways, although improvements may be implemented at any time, the sprint retrospective provides a formal opportunity to focus on inspection and adaptation. Scrum artifacts. There are another few very important attributes of Scrum, like Scrum artifacts. If you seriously consider to start applying Scrum in your projects, you will definitely need to explore them in more detail. However, in this course, we will not dive deeply into those terms in order not to overload you on your first rendezvous with Scrum. I will just give you short introductions. So the first artifact is product backlog. The product backlog is the list of all tasks and requirements related to the product. Higher ordered backlog items are usually clearer and more detailed than lower ordered ones. A product backlog is never complete and it lives as long as the product lives. Sprint backlog. This is the list of all tasks and requirements selected for a sprint to complete. Also, it includes a plan on how the team is going to deliver those items and realize the sprint goal. Increment. Increment is the result of a sprint. In other words, it is whatever the development team accomplished in a given sprint. And now, let's take a look at the whole Scrum framework reflected in one single diagram. Let's go to very left, and here we have the product backlog, represented by squares and rectangles of different size and shape. At the bottom we have bigger ones, saying that these requirements are still vague and unclear. On top we have small ones, meaning that these requirements are well specified and written in detail. After moving to the right, we hit the sprint planning meeting, and this is when the team plan their work. They plan what to be delivered and how they're gonna do it. We take the top of the product backlog and make sprint backlog out of it. And this is when the sprint actually starts. The sprint itself is represented by this circle with an arrow. It also has a smaller one on top representing daily Scrum meetings, which happen on every day of the sprint. This is when the actual work, the actual development is done by development team. In the end, we approach a sprint review meeting, and this is when we demonstrate our work to stakeholders, we collect their feedback, and we discuss some adjustments for the future. And even we can come up with new requirements, which we can store right to the product backlog. The result of the sprint is the increment, represented by this open box. It's supposed to be already working product with some limited functionality and features. If we follow the diagram, we go kind of backwards, and we have sprint retrospective meeting here. This is when the team internally reviews their performance. They discuss some issues and try to come up with the list of improvements for future sprints. And then the next sprint planning happens, and the team goes through the whole process all over again. I hope this diagram makes sense and help you to connect all the dots and the topics we've discussed in this course. Hi there, Agile people. Welcome to the bonus part of Scrum in general. In the following section, we're going to discuss how to get started with Scrum. Getting started, the team. First thing you will need to do is to convince the team that Scrum is something that you really need. People don't like changes. They don't like to come out of their comfort zone. That's why you will need to sell this idea of using Scrum to your team and get them excited about it. Tell them about the stats and facts like the one I mentioned in the beginning of the course about the 300% increase in productivity. Or just Google some other cool research findings. Then you will need to provide the introductory training to the team, or just let them go through this course to learn about the basics. Try to convince all your teammates that this is a good idea to try Scrum. It would be perfect if the whole team supported you, but it happens very rarely. Usually there are people who will be always skeptical about everything. That's why you have to make allies within the team. You will need at least a couple of people in your corner, so it will be easier to work during the first sprint because there will be less resistance from the team side. Getting started. Tasks. The main principle of your work approach should be divide and conquer. It means that complex tasks should be broken into smaller ones, and problems that take a lot of time to solve should be divided into sub-problems which can be solved relatively quickly. A person assigned to a task should be able to complete it within one sprint. If a task takes longer than one sprint, it should be broken into smaller tasks or subtasks. Ideally, you should have assignments that a team member can complete in 1-2 days. Visualize the status of tasks by creating a task board, available to all team members at any time. Use Agile digital project management tools like Trello and Jira, or at least a whiteboard to track your progress. Getting started. Improve. As we discussed before, Scrum framework is all about making experiments and trying to improve. So you need to follow this approach as well. As soon as you get new knowledge, you should discuss with the team how you can use it to become better. You make a decision, perform an experiment, and you learn from it. If it was successful, great, you became better. If it failed, you learned that it doesn't work for you, but it should help you to avoid certain mistakes in future. And to make it all work even more effectively, be very transparent. Transparency is the key because people make better decisions when they see the full picture. And the last but not the least, here are 2 out of many good reasons why to insist on continuous improvement. Scrum encourages teams to inspect and adapt their processes in order to become better. It allows them to become faster, which means they can produce more in less time. Also, Scrum promotes team decision making and embracing team members' talents, which makes them feel more valued, therefore, makes them happier. And working with happy people will make you enjoy your work and life much more. That is all for now. And here is a little closing note from me. If you seriously consider to become a Scrum practitioner and explore all aspects of this methodology, start with reading Scrum Guide a couple times. And try to pass a few open tests about Scrum. It will help you to memorize the material better and put the puzzle together into one big picture. After that, just start doing it, applying it in the real life. Scrum is all about trying new things, learning from your experience, and continuously improving. So don't be afraid to fail. Failure is our best teacher. Good luck. This is the end of the course Scrum in general. So thank you guys for completing it. I really hope you learned something and you will apply this framework on your project. Let's stay in touch, so I invite you to check out our If Solutions pages on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Stay tuned for more courses in future. Cheers.